Hello, I'm Omolara Kintaiwo, a doctoral student at the Department of Higher Education at Cambridge University, the professor for current trends and topics in higher education is Dr. Melinda Bird Murphy. This presentation is a literature review of primary empirical um, articles on funding in higher education. Today is July 28, 2023. My presentation is divided into 5 sections: the introduction and brief review of the studies. The third section is the types of funding, and the fourth is methodology, and the last section is the conclusion. The review focuses on studies on the funding of higher education. All examined articles are sourced from diverse nations. That means participants came from the US, the UK, and other parts of the world. The review compares the purposes, scope, and content of the study. An introduction of funding in higher education. A person's community and society, as well as the individual, stand to gain greatly from higher education. College education can lead to personal advancement, better health, and greater feelings of empowerment. Earning a degree leads to more job opportunities and higher wages. Higher education makes society and the community around it better. College graduates reap long-term financial benefits from higher education, which in turn generates tax revenue for the greater good of society. Degree holders supply society with the skilled labor and services required to manage the economy, healthcare, and technology, among other crucial areas. Funding for higher education plays a crucial role in enabling educational advancement, which is recognized as the foundation for individual upward growth and the economic survival of families, communities, and the society as a whole. Without funding, the pursuit of higher education will face significant obstacles. It is essential to investigate funding and its effect on higher education enrollment. Students can pursue research in important fields like healthcare, social reform, technology with a grant for higher education. As students gain confidence in their ability to influence and alter the future, each grant has an impact. Funding is definitely vital to the pursuit of higher education. Among the studies, in one of them, market exit was the focus. There were complete closures of of colleges among newly found ones, especially private colleges. Some of the colleges had no legal right to admit international students, so funding was harder for them. Many individuals in such colleges that were closed as a result of lack of funding had to suddenly grapple with the fact that they could not continue their college education and had to go elsewhere. The students bore the brunt. Their educational flow was interrupted, disrupted. due to these unplanned closures. So funding definitely has a great impact on students in higher education, be it those who are trying to get in or those who are already there. In another study, the focus was mainly revolved around the size of the institution and what degrees it offered. It determined the kind of degrees offered. If the institutions were small, they had no money to offer certain degrees. So we see the impact of funding. So I categorized the types of funding under, I believe, two different types or three. And the first one is the no strings attached funding. Um, Most Americans support tuition subsidies, but the support is divided, by party lines. While Democrats support subsidies that benefit low-income students, students that come from low-income background, and middle and low-income earners, but Republicans reject that because they felt that it would not benefit them. So Republicans support, they don't support the need-based tuition subsidies like Democrats support. Republicans support funding that would kind of write off your taxes, something like that. Um, so it's kind of a division according to party lines, and this division and back and forth makes funding difficult because you could have funding for 2 years based on your needs being granted to you, while if there's a change in who's in power by the party, um, they could cut that off and switch back to what is called the performance-based grant policy that um, Republicans support. So concerning methodology, data, and analysis, the data obtained from some of the articles are sourced from two databases, not necessarily secondary and primary, but some came from the world's largest educational institution. Information was taken precisely from 183 countries and 6 independent territories in 15,133 colleges. 2,764 institutions were from 37 European countries, um, and some other countries. Information was focused on earlier studies in the area of market exits, and the data collected here was on founding dates, sectors, and academic program types. Both sets of data were compared for fidelity, but the former study only included data from the private sector, while the data results focused on market exit in the UK's private sector only. The results illustrate a systematic disparity between the public and private sectors globally, which means that the public sectors, colleges, higher education, enjoyed more funding than private colleges. And before 1990, 3/4 of public colleges were established, whereas only about 54% of private universities were founded. This result aligns with other studies earlier conducted. Before I talk about the conclusion, let me quickly go to the fact that other studies utilize various instruments like surveys, policy inventory of, 29 jurisdictions, and a case study involving 4 locations: Tennessee and Washington states, the UK, and Italy. Researchers examined colleges to address their research questions. The preferred model involved duplicating studies rather than using sampling logic to guide case selection. Now to the conclusion. More than ever before, college education funding is a major necessity. As of the first quarter of 2023, the student loan debt in the United States alone rose to 1.778 trillion. More needs to be done by colleges to raise funds. The Student Loan Forgiveness Initiative is a step in the right direction, as at the time that I wrote this literature review, the Supreme Court had not struck down the student loan forgiveness plan by the government of Joe Biden. Unfortunately, that has been hacked down now, so which would increase the anxiety of students, lack of access, lack of diversity, lack of equity, especially for Black and brown students who struggle with raising enough funds to go to college, who might be the first in their generation to go to college, whose parents are likely not to have access to credit, so that they're not able to even qualify for student loan. So funding is something that is very important, and higher education funding would definitely eliminate the injustices in our society. Higher education can create a level ground for all children to operate. Thank you. Just wanted to point out real quick that the references are listed right after the conclusion, and 10 different articles were used for this literature review, and I hope you gain something out of it. Thank you.